Okay. All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in to Dixieland and the Proletariat. We're here to talk about Southern working class history and current events through a leftist perspective. Make sure y'all like us on social media at Dixieland and the Proletariat or Dixie Prol. And if you want to give your wages to a bunch of rednecks, then subscribe to our Patreon page at patreon.com/DixieProl. We got a lot of cool stuff to give you, including CDs, stickers, and a cookbook that hopefully the first part of will be done next month, and we'll add that to Patreon. This podcast is brought to you by Newport 100s in a Box, Camel Silver's Black Coffee Vaping, the Dumpster Divers Unions, and Dominatrixes of the World. Shout out to all our Patreon subscribers, and as y'all hopefully know, our monthly Patreon surplus goes to groups that are run by and or help marginalized people directly. As always, I'm Nelson with Senior Telecommunications Director Tommy, Brother William, former pig farmer Tyler could not make it tonight, and our guests are Asher and Lilith, founders of the Birmingham Free Store. How are y'all doing this evening?
Great.
Hey, we're doing great.
We're doing wonderful. Happy to be here. I'm excited to see people's faces and talk to humans.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, glad y'all could make it for sure. This is a cool thing because, like, obviously, I have a lot of questions. I'm sure everyone like here has questions, and I think that what y'all doing, from what I followed on social media with the Free Store, I think what y'all doing is great, and I really want to learn more. But before we get into that, Tommy is our resident Joe Biden expert. So Tommy is going to give us a rundown of what the hell Joe Biden was thinking in his latest interview about voting and the Black community. So Tommy, please enlighten us.
Well, basically, it was a really good interview. Charlemagne, to his credit, was actually asking questions that MSNBC or CNN won't ask. And when things got hard, you could hear the one of his aides in the background, like trying to cut the interview short or whatever. And then he just flippantly said at the end, if you don't vote for me, then you're not Black. So if you don't vote for good old Joe, then you're not Black.
Will, you wanted to chime in?
Yeah, that paternalistic attitude. I haven't seen anything as cringe-inducing as since Juvenile was on the stage with Tom Steyer. That shit was sick. No, that's so bad, man. And people across the aisle are cringing at that.
Yeah, but don't worry, they're quickly flipping it and spinning it into, oh, Joe didn't mean that. He didn't mean that. Mikey said, good old senile Joe. God, I just don't get it. Like, why they wanted this guy? Why him? And he's supposed to beat Trump. This guy's gonna beat Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Do you think he has a better shot than Hillary did? I mean, I feel like he'll do better in the Rust Belt.
I think they have equal opportunity, which is not good. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's the same. It's the same person. You're literally running the same person against Donald Trump.
No, he's a gaffe machine. I mean, ever since, going back, like, this is the first even primary that he's even won was this year. And going back to his, like, plagiarism and stuff back in the day, there's nothing good there. I mean, the Anita Hill hearings, the crime bill, you know.
Even his aides are running, their campaign strategy is low visibility. They want to try to run this campaign with as little of Joe Biden being involved in it as possible, which is insane.
They took, like, Trump's biggest weakness is, like, crassness and like the way that he's awful about women, right? And then right. Like they've just neutralized it by putting forth this like guy who does all the creepy touching and looming and smelling stuff, and
Right.
like they don't understand in the public's mind, like these things are equal. Like you know what I mean?
Right. And that's the thing. Like you said, they took away a couple of really good talking points because you can't bring up what Trump did without bringing up what Joe Biden did. And you can't bring up Trump's rape accusations without bringing up Joe Biden's rape accusations.
Increasingly,
Same
I mean,
thing.
evident. More and more comes out about that every day.
Right.
Yeah. Lilith and Ashley, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I feel like, you know, an argument I've been seeing a lot is people being like, Trump after this whole thing is like, or during this whole thing, you know, he can't bring up Biden's rape allegations because he has his own rape allegations, but like he's just gonna fucking do it like he does everything else, and people are just gonna vote for him. Like it doesn't matter. Women and like rape as a concept is just like a political chess piece that people are moving, and it has like no reflection on like what women's reality actually is, and Trump is just going to use it the way he uses everything else, and it does not matter if he has his own rape allegations.
Right.
Even these libs who like removing the like Time's Up and stuff from their Twitter profiles and stuff. Like the woman who she works for the Biden campaign, and she's like up there in the Me Too movement. I forget the name. They're all like, I mean, whitewashing it. They don't talk about it at all.
No. And what it does is it's already proven that Republicans voters just don't care. And excuse me, but Democratic voters do care, and all that's going to do is detract from the turnout. This will be like the lowest turnout in Democratic history, and I firmly believe that. Like it's going to be abysmal, and they're not going to use this as an opportunity to say, "Oh, wait, well, maybe we need to lean more to the left." No, it's going to be, "Oh, we weren't center enough. Joe Biden wasn't center enough."
No, Tommy, you're absolutely right. They're going to say that it's the left's fault because they didn't nominate Bernie, and even though Bernie, I mean, granted, we're not Chapo. We're not going to be like Bernie's the greatest thing since sliced bread. He obviously has a lot of issues, but he's better than Joe Biden, and he's a lot better than Trump. But they're going to blame the left, even though Bernie has come out and said that we got to vote for Trump is a threat to whatever. But yeah, they're going to say that, then they're going to do the same thing the Democrats have done for the past 30 years, is believe in this third way politics that somehow moderate whatever is going to win you an election because, it worked for Bill Clinton. Well, it worked for Bill Clinton because of Ross Perot. Ross Perot stole votes from the Republican Party, and Clinton was able to win without even 50% of the vote. And then in 1996, the Republicans, who did they? Bob Dole? Yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. They already took back Congress, so it didn't really matter at that point. Clinton was willing to work with them, so it's whatever. But it hasn't worked since. It failed everyone, and it's going to keep failing, and they're just going to say, we just need to keep being more. You can't get more moderate than Joe Biden. If even Joe Biden is, to me, is center right. I mean, you can't unless you're going to vote for a Republican. But they think that Joe is this like white working class whisperer that he's somehow going to, I've said this before, like trying to get like white workers in the Rust Belt to come back to Democratic Party. That's gone. That's done. Trump outflanked them, and they are going to rear their head as the reactionaries that they are and not care because they've been this has been happening for years now. We've seen this in the Rust Belt with the death of the union movements, with just not considering any social issues, just always focusing on the economy. And that's what's driven home this Rust Belt mentality. And Trump spoke to them from what they understand and what they feel internally is that immigrants are taking the jobs, China, blah, 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 when that's not the case. But they believe it, and they found someone who said that to them, so they're going to vote for him. So, like, Biden is not this white working class whisper. That is a bygone thing that's never coming back. And he told one of them that he was full of shit. So you're not going to win over like these working class Rust Belt folks by calling them shit. So I don't. It's like I'm fully predicting Trump is going to win again. So we all need to definitely brace ourselves for that. That was my rant.
I agree. I agree with you.
To segue into that, because obviously the federal government is not helping us. In Alabama, a state government doesn't give a shit about us. And we have a hodgepodge of some mayors that care, but it seems like that we are going to have to take it upon ourselves to help the community. And with that being said, I want to turn this over to two people who are actually putting their money where their mouth is and actually helping the community. And that's Asher and Lilith of the Birmingham Free Store. So thank you all for coming on. I guess the first question right off the bat is, how did this start and what is a free store?
Hey, thanks for having us. You want to?
Yeah, I'll start. Okay. So a free store. Well, it all started in for us at least. It started in the 1960s and 70s in San Francisco. There was a group of people called the Diggers, and they represented a large collection of leftists, sort of pre-hippie movement folk, Maoists and anarchists and all kinds of folk. And they had the first free store in San Francisco, and they had lots of other massive, like, leftist infrastructure outside of the free store. They had a free bank where you could literally get free loans and free money. They had a free clinic. They had free, like, auto repair shops. They had free grocery stores. I mean, they had all of that. And we were very inspired by that. And so we figured we would start building this infrastructure with a free store. And it's just it's what it says on the can. It's a store where everything is free. On the very basic level, how it functions is people donate their gently used items, and we set it all up like it's a store, and we let people have an anti-capitalist shopping experience where they can decide for themselves what their own need is, and take what they need, have their immediate needs met, like, while also encouraging them to just think about what different economic systems could look like, and think about the ways in which they might be getting cheated other places in their life, and have it be like non-carceral, like a store where you're not going to be fucking followed, like a store where you're welcome to just come and shop and be and exist and get what you need, and it's not hostile. Yeah, so that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah, that sounds awesome. When you say, so it seems like it follows the mentality of what is it? Each according to their ability, each according to their needs. So the people just, I guess the biggest question is, the first thing that comes to mind is, we're all in this capitalist mentality living in America that people are just going to take things. So like, if you say that stuff is free, they're just going to come in and just ransack the place and just take everything and not give. So I guess, is that a myth? Do you all see that? Does the whole give and take aspect in this society work?
I think, like, one of the most magical things about the free store is that, like, we do give people, like, the ability to just decide whatever they need, right? So, like, if someone wanted to come in there and take everything, like, we wouldn't stop them, but you wouldn't, because that's just too much work. Like, you don't want the piles of clothes and all the stuff we have in there. And so people go in and make their own decisions about stuff.
Yeah, and I also think it has to do with, like, fixing certain, if you fix certain things about capitalism that are already failing, those problems kind of stop manifesting. And I think that, like, yes, it is a myth in some ways, but I also think that, like, people have learned very unhealthy coping mechanisms to get through capitalism, and you can't fault people for that. People have had to beg and borrow and steal their entire lives to get what they need. So just as an example, like before we had a building, we did pop-up shops, pop-up free stores in a place called Lynn Park, which is in Birmingham and has a high density of houseless people living there. And I did find, and we would only go once a month, right? So I'd spend a month gathering donations, like set it up for half an hour and just be there until all the stuff was gone. And like, yeah, I would find that people would just take whatever they could get their hands on. But like, that was really my fault because I was only coming, we were only coming there once a month. This was the only time people could access this. I was making people feel as if this was a scarce resource, And so by taking it from like the pop-up in the park and putting it in a building where there was hours and it was leisurely, and you could, if you didn't get it today, you could come tomorrow and it would be there tomorrow. Like, it made people feel more secure that these resources weren't just being dangled in front of them and then taken away. So like, people do have like that urge, I think, but like, as you fix some of these fucked up things about capitalism, it will kind of lessen.
Hell yeah. So I've been following y'all on social media for a bit. So the move from, I guess, the once a month in the park to a physical store location, can you just talk about that? Like, what are some problems that y'all experience with having a physical location when it comes, I guess, like people in the community, obviously reactionaries that may not take kindly to a free store? Also saw a while back, y'all had a problem where your ceiling caved in.
Yeah.
And could you talk about that and like the community response?
Yeah. This is actually our second building, because the first time, I mean, the biggest problem, like with everyone, is like landlord negligence. That is by far and away the biggest issue we faced once we got a building. So our OG building, it was owned by gentrifiers essentially. So like, they had 20 plus buildings like in their portfolio. They didn't care about any of them, and they were cheap and cut corners. And there was like, I don't even know what the original issue was. There was some kind of issue with the roof, and the landlord's son was trying to fix it instead of hiring someone who knew how to fix it. Like, it was just some dude who went to like business school. Like, he didn't know how to fix it. And he punched like a million holes in the roof, like right before it rained, like for a week straight. And the entire store flooded. Part of the roof caved in. The wiring was compromised. There was mold growth. The building got condemned later.
It was crushing.
Yeah.
It was like absolutely soul crushing to walk into this store that was so like bright and colorful and had been like such an imaginative space, had been such a magical thing, and then you come in and it's just like an inch of water on the floor. Everything is destroyed. It was awful. And
we salvaged what we could, and we gathered up resources from the community, like through our Patreon and everything, to get a storage unit. And we are good friends with a lawyer, so they got us out of the lease really easily. And like, the lease clearly stated that, one, the roof was like the responsibility of the landlord, and two, if it was made uninhabitable, like, we are not responsible for fucking paying rent. So we were able to get out of there pretty quickly because of that. But then following that, it took a really, really, really long time to get back in a new building. That flood happened like last June. And we're getting into a new building. This is maybe like month 2 in the new building. So that whole time we were just kind of on pause. And that was like expense and like landlords not wanting anything radical in their space, and Birmingham kind of having just a big gentrification problem in general, where it's like all these properties, like you don't even know where to go to ask about these properties because they're all like bought up by developers who are only showing them to other developers, who, like in their portfolio. And it's just really, it was very difficult. And so many landlords like refuse to even begin to understand what our business plan was, and they thought it was a liability for a lot of reasons. So just like the biggest issue with having a building has been landlord negligence. Reactionaries from my, like, they've never come to the space. Like, they never have come to the space. They talk a lot of shit online about how they're going to walk in there, take everything, sell it all on eBay, and give it all to Trump. But like that's like if they want to go through all that shit and tag all of it, like that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. They've never done it. I don't expect that it will never happen. But so far it hasn't happened. And I think like the thing about Birmingham is that it is like truly an incredibly segregated city. And making the intentional decision to have the store in a neighborhood that is not historically white, like is a historically black neighborhood, like just straight up like affluent white people will just refuse to come.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like they'll just be like, oh no, I won't go there. So like they, like if there's some, like in Birmingham we call them over the mountain folks, like people in Mountain Brook who are really wealthy, like they'll talk shit, but they're not gonna come because they're racist. So it doesn't matter. That's kind of been, I think that's the answer.
I love that. Over the mountain, folks. That is beautiful. Because people don't realize how Birmingham is kind of like in the mountains. It was a coal mining town for a while, so for a long time. So it, like, people don't realize that the affluent, rich, white suburbs are literally in the mountains. So I love that, over the mountain, folks. That's beautiful. Yeah, reactionaries always talk shit online. They're horrible people. I guess my next question is what how to frame this. What is there a certain like ideology within left-wing ideology that like guide y'all? It seems like free stores and pop-up stores and things of that nature tend to be more done by anarchists. So I was just wondering if there is a guiding ideology behind the free store when it comes to left-wing politics, and if you could just elaborate on that. I know that we all hate landlords, and that's like a Maoist perspective. I was wondering if there was anything specific.
Okay, so me and Lilith, we tend to be more of like the anarchist perspective, but the free store is like a wide imaginative space that has a spot for like everyone whose beliefs line up with us, right? So we have a lot of help and a lot of love from the socialist parties that are in town. We have a lot of love from like other anarchists, and we have a lot of love from people who like are abolitionists foremost, or environmentalists,
Or like
first of all.
Maoists, people in PSL. Like we really truly are personally guided by anarchist principles, but are really devoted to left unity, and really see the store as something that, like, you know, we're all anti-capitalists, you know, and like certain ways in terms of like how we, you know, how the store is arranged in terms of like literally how it's organized. I think like we do follow anarchist principles, but we're so happy to welcome any other sort of people within the left-wing spectrum. But like obviously like we really mean left wing, like not like Democrats, you know. Like you know, people who are really about it are about it. But yeah.
And you'll also find that like there are people that are really about it who don't know that they're anarchists or communists yet. They just see that what we're doing helps people, and it helps people in a non-judgmental way. They see that it's like not just some charity that's the same as the other nonprofits and churches, that it is something different. And so people who don't even have the words yet for what like ideology they would fit into are also there helping out.
Yeah.
And we try and like share the knowledge and have those kind of conversations, but like the work does come first, I guess, most of the time.
Yeah.
That's really cool how y'all like kind of a lightning rod for, I guess, left-wing ideology and like putting that theory into practice when it comes to helping the community. You brought up a good point about Democrats, because what people don't know outside the South, there are bastions of quote unquote Democratic cities sprinkled throughout the South, and Birmingham is definitely one of those. I forgot his name, but the mayor of Birmingham is a young black gentleman who's supposed
Randall
to be
Woodfin.
Yeah, Woodford, who's supposed to kind of be like the more progressive, I guess, candidate and mayor. What have y'all seen, I guess, amongst like Democrats, I guess, in Birmingham? Like, obviously, there's people that help that don't know that they're actually leftists, that probably identify as liberal and Democrat. But how's like, I guess, have you seen any pushback or like anything from the Democratic establishment in Birmingham? Have they even like tried to help, or are they just kind of like not really touching this?
That's a good question. I think that like if the Democrats can separate themselves from our like more radical like political education based kind of things, then like they will give us their money and their nice stuff, and I have no fucking qualms about that. Like if these like rich girl boss liberals like want to give me their super nice clothes to redistribute to people, to houseless people, or they want to join our Patreon at like $50 a month, like that is choice, and they can do that all day long. But like it does, I think the pushback comes like when it's made evident to people like that we are not just a charity, because the reality is like people don't want to see marginalized folks radicalized. Like people want to see marginalized folks in a bread line being given a tray of prison food and being sent, back to their tent city. But like the fact that we're treating folks not only like people, but like people who have the capacity to understand like radical terms and radical arguments, people that are already organizing and can be organized, like I think that just freaks people out. And so we do like examples of this can be like we posted a video on our Facebook. It was just a repost from like No Justice, No Pride, and it was a video of these folks like stealing a bunch of sandwich making materials, and it was like to that Robin Hood song, and then they were like giving them all out as like food, like in little lunch boxes. And I mean, the comments were just full of people like, do you think shoplifting is okay? Like, are you encouraging shoplifting? Don't you fucking know that all that does is harm the community, and that the corporations, like, they're people too, and you hurt their feelings when you do that,
Yeah, I think people don't know that like we're not trying to just stop at our one little store. Like we were talking about earlier with the San Francisco Diggers, they had a store and they also did food every day, and they had houses for people, and they had a healthcare clinic. They had a whole like a separate economy that was free, that was for their own people, that they were able to grow out of this. So like when we share videos of people stealing stuff, the message we want to send is that any store can be a free store if you like try hard enough, right? Like we have our one free store, and that's our operation, that's our little scam that we run, but there's a whole world of other ways for you to get free stuff, and we encourage you to go out and get that for yourself.
Yeah. I forget who said this quote, but like, when you feed the poor, they call you a saint, but when you ask them why they're poor, they call you a communist. Like,
Dom Elder Kamara.
cool, thank you.
I love it.
So like we are feeding the poor, like we're meeting people's immediate material needs, but not only are we asking why people are poor, we are encouraging them to ask why they're poor. And that makes people really uncomfortable. And so I think that has caused pushback from the Democratic establishment for sure.
Hell yeah. Leftists have a moral obligation to steal from Walmart. Walmart is horrible. And people don't realize that like these, like not just Walmart, but like these big corporate like grocery stores and big stores in general are just going to throw away their excess eventually. Like you'll see it like the second that meat is not necessarily bad, but has passed its expiration date, they're going to throw it in the trash. Like produce, fresh produce that should have been given to people who need it is going to be thrown away the second it has like a spot on it that has, and it's been deemed uneatable, even though it's perfectly fine. And even with others like non food items, like they eventually get rid of it to replace it with newer stuff. So when liberals say things like, "Oh, well, you're just hurting this business," like the business is hurting the community because there are people that need a place to live. There's people that need food. There's people that need just the basic material things to live. And this barrier has been put up for that so that people can't get that. And that barrier needs to be broken down. And that barrier is capitalism. So we produce enough to feed everybody and to house everybody, to clothe everybody. But because we care about, well, the people in power care only about capital, that's what's going to happen. It's like, if you can't pay for it, then fuck you. So like, it's nice to see people that are actually against that and want to feed people and clothe people and house people and help people without caring about any type of monetary gain. So that's awesome, y'all. Thank you. Tommy, you had something? Yeah.
Oh, was I unmuted this whole time? Okay. Anyway, no, I did have something, but I forgot. It'll come to me later.
Killing me, Tommy.
Sorry.
It's all good. Will, did you want to chime in with something? Do you have any questions?
I was reminded of that Saint Basil quote has another one where he says that to hold like more shoes than you need or more shirts than you need is a theft from people who need them, and I feel that 100%. There's an uplifting message, irrespective of religion or ideology in what you do, and I'm very happy to see it in the world. I love it.
Hell yeah. I guess another question would be, I guess more so, y'all said y'all are in a traditionally black community when you did this free store, because obviously, like you said, like conservatives and like rich white liberals, seems like they have this notion that they don't want marginalized people to organize and come together. And we've seen that throughout history, how they really clamp down on that. Have you seen like, because the first thing that people ask me about the South is racial issues. So have y'all been welcomed by this community? Have y'all how are y'all perceived in a community that has been historically black? I'm guessing is the question.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and like one that we as white people like want to be continuously asking ourselves and continuously evolving on. When we think about these topics, like I would say, so first of all, like we recognize that like this is fucking weird. Like we're white and we're not from here and we're gay and we dress weird and like we have this weird store where everything's free. And so like right off the bat, being like as friendly as we could possibly be, talking to everyone that stops by, be part of our like messaging, like we mentioned earlier, is creating a space that does not seem carceral, never acting like someone could in any way be suspicious. Like that is how we like are approaching this like community from the bat. And hoping that like we've not that we've had any, no one's been mean, no one's been rude, no one's been anything like that, but like hoping that people can really come to trust us, and know that like this isn't some bullshit. Like this isn't some gentrification scheme. Like this is not, we're not gonna sell this building to a developer and it's gonna become a cupcake shop. You know, like we don't even really make any more money than you. Like anyone that encounters the store. Like what I always say is like regular charities, there's this notion that like the people providing the service are somehow better than the people receiving the service. Like all we have done is put all this stuff together in one room so that people can access it. That's the only thing. You know, like we don't have any kind of moral high ground here. And we try to make that super known, and we really hope that the people in the community will come to trust us. It feels like we have been welcomed by everyone that we meet. But like I don't want to assume also like as white people that like we can just come into this community and do whatever the fuck we want. Like we want to be listening to the people that talk to us and getting feedback from the people in the community and making changes where we need to make changes, and just constantly having like a evolving relationship with the people in the neighborhood, so that we can do this like as ethically as we possibly can. Because the reality is like we are two white women who are coming into this space, and like having a building, and like that looks like that looks on the outside to people who don't know any better like some bullshit. So we just want to make sure that like we continue to evolve and change as we need to, in that regard.
Yeah, and like we try to have like a lot of like love for the area, and we try and enter it with like a lot of like respect, because like it's a really it's a very historic place, like, and it's very humbling as activists to be on the west side of Birmingham.
It's Birmingham. It's where
Yeah.
everything happened during the civil rights movement. Like everywhere is history. And also like we live right down the street. You know, like
Yeah.
we live in the neighborhood that the store is in. We're not outsiders in that regard.
And we're not the first radicals to be here either. Like people already have the radical ideas. Like it's all there already. Like
Yeah.
we're not doing anything new. We're not doing anything that's like new or different. We're just taking this one little project and bringing it out and sending it up for people.
Yeah, it's like coalescing ideas that have already been here for many generations. And like again, we picked this area because it was already radically minded. Like there's already like, you know, community farms out here and workers co-ops, and the west side of Birmingham is like an amazing place. And we really respect it. So yeah, I guess that's our answer.
Hell yeah. It's like y'all the anti-Karens, which is great.
Yeah.
Tommy, did you remember what you want to say?
Yeah. I do have a question. In terms of so like sustainability, like is this something that can continue and that can grow into, you know, more free stores everywhere else? Like is this turning into something that you can see like, oh man, like we can do this here and in other places?
Cut out for a sec.
Yeah, at the very end you cut out for a second.
Oh, did I? Oh, sorry. Oh, I was just saying, like, how sustainable is it? Do you see yourselves moving this into, you know, more locations and things like that, and this location, you know, getting better and bigger, or you know, at least in the terms of like keeping it going?
So I think like one of the main things that we try and do with the store is have it be like a space for radical imagination. So we if we want to have like a better world, if we want to have a revolution, if we want to have like whatever you want to call it, we have to be able to say like, here's what we want and here it is. It's right here. So like we want a world where everything is free. Here it is. We have one store for now where everything's free. And we're always thinking of like directions we can take it as we get more help, as our capacity for what we can do gets bigger. um so like we totally want to see a place where there's a free store not just in every town but like in every neighborhood. We want to see like free food every day in every corner of the city. Like we think that like the two of us can do all that, but later on down the line, I think there should be free stores and free everything else everywhere because everything's out there to be taken and it's already free. It's free because it's yours.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. And I also think, like, if we're talking about just practically what is making this sustainable, so for this first year of us occupying the building, we are being sponsored by the Yellowhammer Fund, which is an abortion fund. And like in the what we have to do to keep that going is like we give out their reproductive supplies for them, but that's not like a chore. Like I want to give out diapers and tampons and condoms and stuff. And during this year where they're helping pay for a lot of things, like it's our responsibility to build the Patreon up to a point where we can afford the building on our own. So that is like how we're moving towards sustainability, is like having this first little jumping off point and then like building up our capacity slowly over this year. And then also, I think like just by its nature, it will grow, because nothing is owned by anyone. Nothing is copywritten. I've had people all the time say, "Oh, I wish we had something like this in wherever." And I'd say, "Well, you can do it. Like you can do this. Like we're not nobody. We're both dropouts. Like anybody can do it." And we would love to maybe even make in the future like some literature or something that is like a detailed plan on how you can start a free store in your own community, some step by step like ways that you could follow, and give that out to people, even go on tour around and help people get started in different places. And like because so like the first time we had the building, we didn't have any money. We had nothing. It was only the Patreon that paid for everything. And because of that, we barely kept our head above water and couldn't focus on a lot of those like political education or sustainability efforts. But because we have this nonprofit supporting us for the time being, we have the time and the mental energy to invest in those sort of things. So we want to be like continuing to think about how this can be pushed outward as far as it'll go. I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm glad that you guys have teamed up with the Yellow Hammer Fund. Like that is amazing, and those guys are always doing great work.
Yeah, we've had Mia on the show twice now. She's a really good friend of ours and friends of the show. And I saw that on Instagram. We all got stuff from Yellowhammer, but the fact that they're supporting y'all is absolutely amazing. So that's a great coalition built there, and it's great to see that coalition. Like I granted like Yellowhammer is for reproductive rights, so they got not really a political like an ideology type deal. They have their issue that always lands on the left because obviously the right doesn't give two shits about reproductive health care. But it's really nice to form this they all form this coalition and they're helping y'all. So that's wonderful. I guess I can't really. Those are y'all have really great answers. Thank you so much.
Where can people go to donate?
Yeah, exactly. That's a big thing.
Yeah, so you can go to a couple places. If you want to give a one-time donation, our Venmo is just at Bham Free Store. But a better, more sustainable way would be the Patreon, which is also it's like patreon.com/Bham Free Store. Those are our two big places that you can go to donate. And once who the fuck knows when it's going to be, but once the pandemic is over, we will accept donations of like clothes, shoes, books, homewares, art supplies, whatever you think that a person would like and could use. You can donate that to us during our open hours. Obviously we can't do that right now because that would be a massive vector, and we have to wait until the pandemic is over to do stuff like that. But monetarily, those are the two places you can go.
Y'all bring up a really good point. Like, oh, I'm sorry, Tommy. Did you have something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you mail in?
We don't have a. I guess you could. Our address, like the Free Store's address, is 2030 Bessemer Road, in Birmingham, Alabama, and we don't keep like regular hours there right now. So maybe like wait until we have like 9 to 5 hours where people are going to be there to mail in. But once that happens, like yeah, we'd love to accept mail.
Cool. That is awesome. Yeah, when all this is over, like send us your information and we'll definitely post it up. And hopefully you'll get, if people can't come there physically, maybe you can get, people to send things there and things like that, and definitely donate. And that would be great.
Definitely send us stuff even before that, because like I can plug everything in the show notes, so it will permanently be there with this episode when we end up posting it. But we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, but you bring up a really good point. How has the pandemic affected the store? Like how, like obviously, like we talked about, for instance, we're in Montgomery and y'all in Birmingham. So like in Montgomery, for people who don't know, recently we have 3 main hospitals in Montgomery, and we're out of ICU beds, or we have like one, maybe like that's available, like for the entire city of 300,000 people. So we're sending people to Birmingham, and that's in turn overflowing Birmingham's hospital, UAB, and all the other big hospitals that are in Birmingham. I think UAB is the only level 1 trauma center in the entire state. But I'm guessing, so what you've touched on, like how has the pandemic changed the free store and what y'all are able to do?
So many ways, a lot of ways. Like this whole store, the idea of a free store is already pretty unprecedented at the moment. And then you couple that with this entirely unprecedented virus, and it's like there's really no roadmap for how we could interact with this and maintain our values. And it has been difficult. Like, not gonna lie. So like how we would operate before is like people would just donate their stuff. We would have volunteers with no gloves or nothing, just going through it, putting it on the shelves. People would come in and take it. A lot of those people would be elders, like obviously like people who are marginalized, like use the store a lot. Like we cannot in good conscience open the way we were operating before. Like it can't happen right now. And so we have to, I don't know. I don't want to describe it as like we just have to do things differently. Like so right now our big program is we have emergency aid kits. And so the Yellow Hammer Fund gives us a rotating like stock of things like soap and hand sanitizer and paper towels, condoms, emergency contraception. The list goes on. And people can fill out a Google form to get those items, and there's like a pickup day, and like no one is turned away, of course, but like you can probably already see the issues with that program. Like just having to have internet to fill out a Google form, tons of barriers to that. And like we have it so it's prominently displayed that like you can call me and I'll fill out the form for you if that needs to happen. But even that, like, it's not the same as someone just being able to walk in. Um, and and that sucks. And we're really trying to see kind of what corners we can cut in there so that we can still maintain that like level of like anarchist, I don't know, like anarchist feeling of the interaction, you know. I don't want it to feel like you're interacting with just a regular nonprofit, you know, but that is what it can feel like when you have to fill out a Google form. So just like and it eliminates like one of the most important parts of the free store, which is like people being able to assess their own needs. So like before, if someone donated us 250 bars of soap, we would just have those soaps out. And if one person would need 10, one person would need one. And like those people can assess their their own needs, right? But like because we only have so many soaps and we have to get them all to people in the same way every week, everybody gets one bar of soap, you know? Um and that is not where we want to be. So we try to, you know, like let's say like if someone applies twice in 1 week, you know, we'll give them double or whatever. We try to see where people are like trying to reach out and tell me what they need through this interface that is not very personable and really meet them, but it's been very difficult. It's been really hard.
So I guess so the pandemic, it seems like I guess like exactly what you said, like you want to help people in what they need, but it seems like the pandemic has almost induced this like forced rationing that you have to, like, granted you want to give everybody soap, but if you only have 250 bottles, like people coming in and saying I need 10, 20, 30, it's going to run out, it's going to hurt people and people will hoard the soap. So it seems like why, like you said, like while you want to give everyone according to their needs, like there needs to be some sort of organization and rationing behind it, or you're going to see like the hoarding and the problems that exist in a capitalist society when Walmart hoards stuff, or when someone buys a bunch of stuff, as we saw, like a bunch of hand sanitizer from a store, then hoards it and tries to sell it at a markup on Amazon. I'm pulling a Tommy, and I had a question, but I totally blanked on what I wanted to say. Tommy, Will, did y'all have something you want to fill in while I can hopefully remember what I was going to say? No one? Great.
No,
Oh, Tommy, yay.
sorry, I had to unmute myself. No, I'm just amazed at your awesomeness. Like I honestly, I totally expected when he was like, "Oh, we got the founders of the free store, coming on." I really expected some bureaucratic white ties, But I'm very pleased, and you guys are doing amazing work, and I'm sure that community, if they don't already appreciate it, will definitely grow to appreciate it. And hopefully we can get you some donations from this, and hopefully people will start giving you guys some stuff to give away and things like that.
Just to piggyback on what Tommy said, obviously, as if our listeners know that we do this, but obviously, if there's any new listeners, or I already told y'all, but we give our monthly Patreon surplus to groups, as we said in the intro. So obviously, this month we're going to be giving our surplus to y'all, because obviously there's podcasts out there that make a lot of money and hoard it for themselves and don't necessarily practice what they preach. Look, we all listen to them, okay, and we take it with a grain of salt. And it's like obviously it's Chapo's funny, yeah, whatever. But I kind of wish that they would fork over some of that $1.7 million they make a year over to groups and organizations that really need it. But when you live in gentrified Brooklyn. I guess my question, I remembered it, is okay. So y'all, you touched on a good point. Like people, I think back to what Senator Huey Long said back in the 30s is like people need the what basically is a home, and people need like radio, and back then this is the 30s, radio and automobile, the comforts of a home. So I'm guessing y'all, from what I've seen, have introduced fresh produce into your store. Y'all have introduced obviously contraceptions and stuff from Yellowhammer. But you touched on a thing about other needs like internet access. Are there any plans to expand the free store into something beyond the store, like maybe a community center, or like, do you all have any, I guess what I'm saying is, do you all have any plans to expand hopefully when the pandemic is over or whatever, to expand what it means to be a free store and what y'all could give back to the community?
Yeah, absolutely. Like when we had, that's a great question. When we had the first store, it really functioned as a third space. We were never able to get internet because we literally straight up couldn't afford to pay it. But now we can, and no one can begin there to use it. But we have internet. We have free internet there for people to use, and we totally plan on having like it function as a third space, a place where you can just be, like a place where money and all the things that it comes with like are totally absent. Like you can hang out, you can be Black and queer and hillbilly and trans, and you can just hang out there and take shelter from just the constant like horrible bullshit that capitalism throws at you. We really hope that we can serve the community in that way. In the old store, we had coffee and donuts every day. We had like couches, and people could come take naps. There was air conditioning. We we hope for that to happen again when like gathering is okay. We're also we're right across the street from this really big vacant lot, and nothing is like happened yet, but we are considering, like, the lot is for sale, and I'm like trying to get my boss to buy it for us. But if that doesn't happen, like it doesn't happen, and we can just guerrilla make it into like a people's park, like we can mow the grass ourselves, and we can put in benches, and we can put in raised garden beds, and just all kinds of stuff. Like what the original people's park is in Berkeley, right?
Mm-hmm.
Touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, okay. I'm just be honest, I'm kind of a history nerd about like a lot of different like of the revolutionary like movements that happened in like the 60s.
Well, you've come to the right place.
So like we take a lot of inspiration from that, and all the different groups that were active in like California in the 60s. And one story that's I think anarchists love to tell is like the Berkeley People's Park, which is still there to this day. And what happened was it was a student housing building for Berkeley University of California at Berkeley, UC Berkeley. And there had been so many people who were there in the community living for free in the student housing building that weren't students, that were just living off of this like free economy that was like coming up, that the university decided like we need to create a housing shortage so there won't be all these people living for free. So they tore the entire housing building down, bulldozed the entire thing, and put a fence around it. And so the people were like, oh, well, there goes our housing. But like this was our space, and in tearing it down, they kind of even recognized to us that it was our space. So what people did is they just went, and it doesn't take that many people to pull a fence up, and so they just went and knocked the fence down, and they planted grass and they planted trees, and they planted a pond, and it was this anarchist moment where everyone pitched together and went and found whatever they could to make a park. Like people would go and pull turf up off of other people's yards, and they just made a park. And no one, it's owned by the university officially, and they keep threatening to like build something on it, but it's a park and it's still there. And Food Not Bombs feeds food there to people every single day. And it's so tantalizingly doable, right? If you have enough people that want to have a free space, you can just go and make it happen.
Yeah, and especially this place that we're right next to, it's like it's just an empty lot with grass in it. You know, we can mow the grass, and we can make it into whatever we want, and that's, you know, we don't have like hard and fast plans for that yet, but that just is a reflection of what we mean when we say like we're trying to expand the radical free space out as far as we can.
Yeah, and even like the diggers that we talk all the time about, trying to like look back at what they did, because they got way further along than we are now. They eventually became called the Free City Collective and organized free stores all over the country, and like free everything was like the goal. Like they had a whole fundraising scheme. They had a bank that would give you money for whatever project you wanted, as long as it was going to be giving people stuff for free. A whole infrastructure that was not hierarchical and was all about having a new perspective on like what an economy could even be, like changing everything about how we think of how things are distributed.
Yeah.
We lost Will. I don't know where he went. But hell yeah. I mean, the first thing that came to mind when y'all talk about what y'all did was the Black Panthers and how they organized free breakfasts and ambulance rides and just any service that the community lacked. But I didn't realize that was a whole other section, especially in California, that was doing that. But that's really awesome. And I really hope that y'all are able to get that lot across the street. It seems like, you know, if it's there and the community could use it, the obvious thing would be to just take it and use it to help the community. But obviously there's all this bureaucratic nonsense mumbo jumbo that we have to, if you do plant gardens and you do try to prop it up, then like that's when you get people's attention. They're like, hey, we could use this lot for high-rise condos and other things to help gentrify the community. I'm guessing, I'm trying to think, I think we touched on everything that I had, and with everyone else disappearing, I don't know where. I guess Tommy had to use the restroom or something. But is there anything else that we didn't touch on?
Paper, pieces of coin, or pieces of plastic in order to get stuff that you are already owed. It belongs to you already because your labor created it. That's how it, like, people are entitled to everything, not only that they need to live, but just want. Like, under this capitalist system, like, you are entitled. And I think like people being entitled is like a giant conservative talking point, but like we want people to feel entitled. People are owed. People are owed so much. So much is stolen from people every single day by by working class people, from the people in power, from white supremacists, from capitalists, from men. Like, the people are stolen from every day. I want people to feel entitled to get some of that back. And in that way, like it's like an art project, to make people rethink like what the world could look like, have a little bit more imagination about what the world could look like. And also I think we have like environmental like ideas that we want to pass along. Like, obviously, like there's 100 companies that produce 99.9% of the greenhouse gas emissions, and even if every single person on the planet did as good as they could at recycling or whatever, nothing would happen. And we have to, it will take an economic revolution, but that doesn't mean that we should be like balls to the walls consuming as much as we can. Like people should try to curb how much they are buying every year. And I think like that is part of the free store. There is already enough garments and textiles made to clothe everyone for 1,000 years. 1,000 years. There is like the garment industry is like the second most polluting industry behind the military. And we're also trying to get people away from that, that there exists, you know. And if we can even divert a small amount of that stuff that would be going to landfills back into the hands of people that need it, I feel like we have done something important. Yeah, those are the last couple things I want to touch on. You want to say anything else?
No, I think that's a beautiful way to end it.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you all
Yeah.
so much. Tommy, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we do the outro? And
No, thank you guys for coming
Yes,
on.
thank you all so much.
so much. Like you are so inspiring. This is the most inspiring part of my day to day, and you guys are so genuine, and I really feel that you definitely believe in your message, and you're going to do everything that you can to make this work, and that you believe in it 100%. And that's all that really matters, and I feel that from you, and I hope we can help in any way that we can.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
oh my
that
god.
warms my heart. It's so funny you said you thought we were going to be like white tie bureaucrats. I think people either expect white tie bureaucrats or like completely useless hippies when they hear about us. But like, I think we're pretty middle of the road leftists.
Yeah.
yeah, when
It's
people
very
think that
refreshing.
people think that leftists don't work, but like the majority of working class people I come into contact have leftist ideologies. Like we're all workers, we're all leftists, and we have to have a job. It's the right that gets to sit at home and collect dividends on fucking stocks, where we're the ones that have to go out and work. So leftists know hard work, and what y'all are doing is amazing. Please, if y'all get the chance to, if y'all do type up like a handbook, like how to open up a free store, we will obviously gladly publish it on all our social media platforms. I don't want to turn off any of our fans that may not like said organization, but I'm starting a DSA chapter here in Montgomery, and it's picked up pretty quickly. And what people need to realize is that DSA chapters in the South and in red states tend to be a lot more radical than the ones on the coast for obvious reasons. But I'm sure like maybe we could get off the ground a Montgomery free store. And if we could work together and we could do something actually, because we are like Birmingham, Montgomery are basically the same city, just different size. We have the same problems that y'all do. We're basically the same racial makeup, the same every economic makeup, the same everything. Y'all have the mountain suburbs. We have the flatland suburbs. So I really hope that in the future we could work together and bring about something. And like you said, imagine a world where you don't have to sell your labor to a clock to get shit wages in order to pay for shit you don't need. Imagine a world where the workers can provide the stuff that they need for themselves at no cost, because we make it, we own the means of production, we should own the means of production, and it's ours for the taking. So thank you so much, y'all, for coming on. I don't know what happened to Will. He disappeared. The FBI got him. But obviously he definitely shares all the sentiment that we have said. He was definitely excited to have y'all on. Thanks again. And we really appreciate y'all. And real quick, if we do something about I think the history of organizing, Ashley, would you be cool to come on and talk about more like leftist history when it comes to organizing things. Because you brought up you tapped a vein, and I think that like you brought up stuff that I didn't even know about. So maybe we could have an episode where you come on and we talk more about like the history of this movement that in the 60s that I think people have forgotten. So hopefully we could do that in the future, maybe.
Yeah, like people have totally forgotten, and there's so much stuff that yes, I would love to. But,
Awesome.
there's so much stuff from the like new left in the 60s and the feminist movement and the gay liberation movement that has just been totally forgotten, totally wiped out of our collective knowledge. And it's so inspiring when you look back and really see what people had accomplished. And like there's so much that we can learn from where we are and take that. But yeah, I'd love to come back.
And she's like an encyclopedia.
That's
She really knows about this shit.
That's great. We need that because like we're getting back to our roots with more like working class history with our last episode with Kate talking about the Memphis sanitation strike that we just put out. We're going to put it out on other platforms hopefully next week because we ran out of storage space on Libsyn. So that'd be great. Maybe we could think of something that where that particular history pertains to the South, because why we started this podcast is everyone thinks we're just a bunch of backwater hicks that are all white, and there's a lot more to the South than that. But once again, y'all, thanks for coming on, and I'm just going to go ahead and say our good old outro. At Dixieland, the proletariat, we believe the South will rise again, but this time for the right reasons. Those being worker-owned means of production, decolonization, and self-determination for all oppressed peoples. We are coming to you from the heart of Dixie, Montgomery, Alabama. We'd also like to recognize that we are recording on occupied land that rightfully belongs to the Muskogee and their people. Lilith and Asher, thank you so much for coming on. Birmingham Free Store, y'all are doing great. And send us links that we can find y'all on social media where people can donate, and I will definitely post those in the show notes. And as former pig farmer Tyler always says, good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. And now with the pandemic, we'll see y'all next time.